Welcome everyone to Spoiler Warning, featuring myself, Tom Colohue, and today we're going to try things a little bit different. Mostly by relaxing, taking a bit of the pressure off. We've still got plenty to go through, but I'm just going to slow the pace a little bit. Chill out, relax, appeal more to those people watching on their TVs, and appeal less to those people who are desperate for news. We're going to try just a bit more chill, a bit more relaxed, and in between questions, I'm going to breathe. So there's a few things I want to cover today. We are going to be going over the full SummerSlam card as it's been announced so far. For example, there are 8 matches to cover, quite a few stipulations that we will be covering as well. I've also got a few separate things to discuss along the way, news points that have popped up on different websites, which I'd like to react to. As regards exclusives, they will come out during the conversation, during your questions, and I'll be endeavouring to answer as many of your questions as we can. But as I say, I'm just going to take the pressure off a little bit, take a breather, and just have some fun with this one, because for once, I don't have to worry about keeping my children awake. I can be a little loud, I can have the door open at the office, I can talk at a more leisurely pace and not worry too much about, oh, what if I go over, what if I go under? So, you guys have asked about more relaxed streams, about streams where we can go off on tangents and things like that. This might well be the one. But I will still start by talking about SummerSlam. So if you enjoy it, be sure to hit like, hit the thumbs up. We've got 43 on YouTube. There's plenty of people who could hit that thumbs up. We've already got a few people dropping into TikTok as well, so be sure to hit like. Chat between yourselves, chat at me, chat aggressively, chat as little as you want, or just lurk. You're very welcome to hang out. So I'll start with the current card as announced for SummerSlam. 8 matches have been announced. I expect between 4 and 6 more. Personally, I think there will be 4 more. That will give us 6 matches per night, thus 3 hours, which is roughly what I expect SummerSlam to be. We'll start with the United States Championship, confirmed to be in a steel cage, Solo Sikoa versus Jacob Fatu. And for me, the numbers are simply unavoidable. The numbers don't lie, 33 and a third and all that jazz. Solo Sikoa has far too much backup for Jacob Fatu, and while Jimmy Uso has been instrumental, I suspect this is when we see the return of Tama Tonga, who picks a side and then changes. The whole angle with the car was, I think, really quite poor. It did make Jacob Fatu look good in ring when he and Jimmy Uso essentially beat up everyone, but I feel the acting of the police officer wasn't particularly strong. He was doing the SNL thing of watching his cue cards quite a bit, and in general, if you want them in a cage, just mention the massive amounts of backup. You really don't need to go that far for me to make this one happen, but hey, that's WWE nowadays, isn't it? Let me catch up a little bit with the chat because we've got plenty going on. No worries, Jay, you go ahead and lurk. You're very welcome, mate. Declan says, is Julia going to be at SummerSlam? They don't seem to be pushing towards anything as regards the Women's United States Championship, so I would suspect no. Hello, Sledgehammer, good to see you, mate. Ray says, I was disappointed with TNA Slammiversary because there's a rubbish finish in the main event. Mike Santana didn't win the TNA title and Masha Slamovich losing the knockout title. I did expect JC Jane to come out of this looking particularly strong, and of course I expected AJ Styles to come out of this looking like AJ Styles. Sid, the suspension of Tessa Blanchard is to allow her some time off. It is entirely storyline. Bailey says, WWE announcing a weird tag team combo today. Bailey and Lyra versus Rox and Raquel. Well, this ain't going very far or very fast, but it might be an opportunity for Bailey to sort of turn back to face again. I'm not sure, really. Paul says, I was really looking forward to AJ Styles' return to TNA. All he did was congratulate Leon Slater winning the X Division title and talk about building the X Division. I was very disappointed. What can I say? If a division needs a rebuild, he's probably the man to do it. Roy says, Bully Ray came out, challenged the Hardy Boys to a match at Bound for Glory. Team 3D, aka Dudley Boys, versus the Hardy Boys. Their peak on both sides was definitely a long time ago. Declan is missing Becky 2 belts. Marcel says, hi Tom and chat, how are you all? Doing very well, thank you Marcel, welcome to the show. And Proud Dad on the TikTok side has dropped to half, thank you very kindly Proud Dad. I can also see already 239 likes over that side. Of course on TikTok you can hit like as many times as you like and just keep hitting it, whereas on YouTube you get one thumbs up, repeating it just takes the thumbs up away. So 17 on YouTube, about to hit 300 on TikTok. Thank you very kindly, and thank you, Proud Dad, for a donation. Very generous. Cal says, hi Tom, hope you and your family are well. Hope you have a great summer ahead. Now it's the start of the 6 weeks. Well, to be fair, there are holidays abound. I am taking the opportunity to spend some more time working on the house, getting things painted, and if not for holidays, I would at this point immediately be buying a carpet for this office to stop the echo. But unfortunately, and in many ways fortunately, I got a family to look after. You all remember when I didn't have a family to look after? I don't miss that. I do not miss that. Alex, of course you can. You ask whatever question you've got. Not saying I'm going to answer it, but you ask whatever question you've got. Calvin says, as regards Austin Theory, I guess it is paranoia. It's just the fact it's still on main event. See ya, gotta go. See you later, Calvin. And all I will say is that that's just perfectly normal paranoia. Everyone in the universe has that. Everyone. Cal says, enjoyed the Wyatt 6 vignette on Friday. It's amazing seeing them talk, and all of them talk. I feel like they've been pushed. Could you see them on SummerSlam? I could. I do think we are building towards some multi-team tag team championship match for, it might be the only way to get them off the Wyatt 6. Nothing as of yet for Nikki Cross. There are suggestions that she's maybe just a little unavailable, but we're doing what we can in trying to make sure they get pushed, and it does feel like WWE are actively listening to the fans. Alex has asked if he can ask a question and then said, ignore my question then. So I'm guessing Alex is about 9 years old. So it says, Moose announces a break from TNA Wrestling after a Slammiversary loss. Break means he's coming back. And Sean says, if you haven't seen the Mortal Kombat 2 trailer, Tom, go check it out. It's amazing. I do love Carl Urban as casting. I feel he's going to have a lot of fun with it. And I also think it's very interesting. And I'm following a tangent already. Imagine a world in which one actor appeared in two franchises that feel like rivals. Now, there are people who've already done so. The same person who played Thanos, of course, also played Cable before Deadpool joined the not ICU, that's a very different thing, the MCU. So there are people who have done it. But Cody Rhodes is appearing in both Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter. As a kid, I couldn't imagine that moment would ever come. Couldn't see it. Could not see it. Rickan says, I think Tamatonga acts like he's going to join Jacob and then betrays him. Leon says, hi Tom, hope you're doing well. Doing very well, thank you Leon, welcome to the show. And Cal says, I don't know if you agree Tom, but I feel Solo has finally found his feet after the whole old bloodline, new bloodline stuff. That really affected him and left him stuck after that in my opinion. I think the success of Jacob Fatu has taken the pressure off of Solo Sikoa's shoulders. He was in a position where he was being undermined by the success of the people around him. Now, that success is not expected of him. Because of that, he's exceeding expectations. Sometimes what you need is not a push, it's a background push. And I think he's doing a very good job right now. Noob says, hello, Mr. Colohue, how are you doing? Doing well, Noob, welcome to the show. Declan says, could Becky elevate the Women's United States Championship? She's already a champion, mate. She's already trying to elevate the championship. She can't have everything. She doesn't want everything. Ray says, I was happy to see Leon Slater win the TNA X Division title. BM says, what's happened to Hikaru Shida? Heard she went back to Japan to renew her visa, but it's been a long time off from AEW TV. It may be that there is a waiting list. It may be that there is a queue. There's 1,000,001 possibilities. Eric was hoping for Santana. Rickham says, was AJ Styles' appearance in TNA a one and done deal? It was not. It was designed to basically pop the crowd and get people celebrating, which would then encourage the WWE to give him more time there. Finn will win the IC title of SmackDown in Dublin. I mean, that would be pretty cool. And Demez says, what's the next UK PLE? Typically, the WWE have done one a year, and there is still time for that. But it seems like it might be next year that the WWE finally do, and they'll probably make it castle-themed again. BM says, Goldberg isn't happy with the way the retirement match went down. Don't tell me he wants another retirement match somewhere else now. Yeah, Well, I'm not going to tell you that because I said that on Friday. On Friday. Anyway, where was I? There he is. Sean says, via Daniel Cormier recently spoke saying Brock Lesnar is currently on the TKO ban list. Yeah, even in the UFC, they're not allowed to mention him. Thank you, Cal says, since Mania, Tom has been reporting Braun versus Roman at SummerSlam. Tom also reported around Rumble time about Gunter and CM Punk at SummerSlam. It's time to listen to Tom if you don't already. Appreciate you, Cal. Appreciate that. Eric says, good evening, Tom. How are you doing? Don't you mean Bayley turned back heel because you said turn back face? I did say what I said, and I do stand by it. I think some of her responses to Lyra Valkyria have been somewhat heelish. So I think she's flirting with the dark side. Ideally, I think it's time for her to come back. That's all I'm saying. Oh, absolutely right, BM. The chat rate is very easy to boost. Whatever you say, actively boost the chat rate, and I appreciate you for it because it does guarantee more people join the show. Same with if you've hit that thumbs up. Paul says AEW always put on... I'm not sure. I think you missed a word there, Paul. Good cherry coat to you as well, Bismo. Although today, am I an iron brew hankering? Ooh, Demez wants a Survivor Series. Apparently Birmingham Elimination Chamber. Birmingham's a good shout, to be fair. They've got some pretty big arenas there, and Elimination Chamber would definitely feel like a big deal, but that would be early next year. Mr. X says hello. Welcome, Mr. X. And thank you to everyone who's now got us up to 1,000 likes on TikTok already. Hey, Ed. Good to see you, sir. Michael says Elena Black tweeted out a statement about taking a break from wrestling. I'll be touching on that a little later. Cal says, I remember giving people a chat when Aleister Black and giving Tom crap when Tom said that he won't be pushed to the main card. Guess what, guys? Tom was right again. I try my best and I appreciate that. Joey, we will be going through all of the SummerSlam card and matches that I expect to see. For example, I have mentioned a Wyatt 6 multi-team match. Oh, BM, cool. That sounds fantastic. I don't think Cody Rhodes is going to turn up tomorrow in the UK. Hector says, I saw a relatable post on X regarding last night's Slammiversary that said it seems like there's 3 separate people running creative that don't necessarily communicate with each other. It feels that way. Ooh, Ed, brilliant. Wendell Pierce was in Superman for DC and was in Thunderbolts for Marvel in the same calendar year. Have I got that confused? Is he not in Mortal Kombat? And I've actually just seen ads for Naked Gun, because I've definitely seen ads for Naked Gun. I'm very excited about that film. I may have got that wrong. Christopher Leclerc says, I told everyone that JC James was going to beat Masha Slamovich at Slammiversary and become a double champion. Nobody wanted to believe me. I literally said it myself, mate. Mr. X, I haven't seen any storyline push for Julia. I suspect her championship will be missing from SummerSlam. So far, Cal, we'll see what happens. Joey says, why is TNA putting their main title on NXT wrestlers for greater exposure on NXT programming? I'm a Villain says, how come they aren't pushing Cross or Theory? So much talent there. Because Cross has not signed a new deal as of yet, and he seems unwilling to do so. As regards Theory, the fans don't seem particularly invested, and he is running down his deal as well. Joey says, do you think we're going to get a TNA invention in NXT? At some point, yes. Cal says, I also found it wild. People are saying Roman needs a title run. He just had one for 4 years and it was stale the last year. He's fine without it and his schedule won't allow it. His schedule absolutely would allow it, but I do think it's one of those situations where if he won a championship, people would then immediately turn on him. Rickan said it was good to see Zilla Fatu in TNA. BM says, basically Goldberg will shop around until he gets the retirement match he wants. Yes. Carl, I can't say never. I will just say that WWE are running down his contract. Hector says, CM Punk commented on Elena Black's post regarding her stepping away from wrestling. Everyone needs a CM Punk level support in their life. He's such a good guy regardless of past stories and history. I wouldn't say regardless. I'd say they're part of who he is. It's part of his DNA. But I will say I agree with what you're saying. Support is support, and that is a wonderful thing to have. Bad Boy says, what is your prediction on Alexa's SummerSlam match? I feel like Uncle Howdy will be doing something. Nope, the match is already in the books. Thank you, David Leary, for joining as a channel supporter. Very much appreciate you for that. That is a £1, $1 donation, depending where you are, per month, in order to get access to behind-the-scenes stuff. There's not a lot in there right now, and I do apologise for that, but there will be more coming. I know I keep saying it. I know I do. But it's going to happen. I feel so bad saying it. I feel so bad saying it. Thank you very kindly, David. Appreciate you for it. Cal says, Goldberg complaining about his last match is wild. I think he got 14 minutes, one of the best performers in the world, and looked strong and went out looking strong. What more can he want to win? Dan Sharp says that Danhausen is nearing closer to signing with WWE. Interesting to hear. We'll see what happens. Interesting, BM. Sid says, why don't you like Vince Russo? Because I've heard him talk. BM says, I think given we've got multiple Raw and SmackDown tapings this year, that was instead of a PLE for this year, quite possibly. We do get the double tour. A Villain says, is the Inferno match retired? Haven't seen one since Kane versus Bray. Yes, that match was retired several years ago because the risk is far greater than the reward. Eric says, on SmackDown last Friday night, Alexa Bliss was wearing her Fiend Alexa Play Pain fingerless gloves. Yes, she was, but that does not mean she's doing anything with Bray Wyatt, or in fact the Wyatt Six, I should say. Sometimes she just like to pay tribute, and I do not blame her for that. Thank you, Cal, for renewing your membership. It is a 5th month, and I appreciate you for it. Also, a donation of £2 says, I know it's not much, but you deserve it. You never have to say that. You are giving me your hard-earned cash as a donation. You have no need to do that. Thank you very kindly for it. Never apologize. Every donation goes straight back into the channel, and it goes straight into putting food on the table. Thank you. And thank you, Andrew Dugan, for much the same thing. A rose on the TikTok side. Thank you for that donation. I appreciate you for that. Joey says, do you see SmackDown tag titles finally getting featured on a PLE? I do. I do think SummerSlam is the time. BM also suggests King of the Ring in London wouldn't be a bad idea. Asking His Majesty to attend and present the crown. Well, that would never happen, but they can always ask. Cal says, do you think Cody turns heel at SummerSlam? No, I think he gets kicked out of him. Erin says, hey everyone, hope everyone's doing well. Also, if you didn't know, WWE is working with Fandango to show SummerSlam in some US theatres. I did not know that, thank you. BM says, can't wait for tomorrow. We'll get to see Liam Neeson, Seth MacFarlane and Pamela Anderson at the very least. Declan says, how long do you see Becky as a heel until she decides that she's given enough back? I think she might well retire after this heel run. Joey says, did WWE lose faith in Theory, or does he want to leave? I would suggest it's a bit of both, primarily the former. Ray says, Salofa Fatu Jr. was on TNA Slammiversary pre-show. I do need to check every time I say these because they're interesting names for me. JJ says, Tom, do you know what I realised you would be a great wise man for Roman Reigns? He said it in all caps. I've worked with minor wrestling promotions before. Typically I wear a suit and I do the Paul Heyman job. Because I can't wrestle, I'm not athletic, but that kind of helps in the position where people just want to see you get beat up. So I have worked as the manager before, particularly the one you want to see get beat up. I'm pretty good at it, I feel. Sid says WWE is preparing SummerSlam to blow WrestleMania out of the water. I would not go that far. BM says, given the Kabuki Warriors are now a thing and Io lost the title, is that Asuka versus Io title match now gone? Not necessarily. In this run, yes, but there's plenty more to come. And there were a few changes made after Liv Morgan was injured. Demez says, King of the Ring at a football ground would be a good show, which I think is fair. And Mr. X says, is the rumour true? Jericho will... No. You ask a lot about Jericho. The answer is almost always no. Whatever your source is, stop reading them. Yes, Jay, but as I say... I mean, yeah, technically. Interesting. Declan, Google it. Noob says a random women's tag title match happened tonight. I get the feeling that Bayley is turning on Lyra Valkyria. Sean says, what matches do you see opening, closing both nights of SummerSlam? We will get to that shortly. Cal says, if Sami Zayn wins tonight, I'll be very worried over Cross. I feel like he needs to win, and Sami doesn't at all. Joey says, do you know how much time the private party have left on the AEW deal? I do not at this point. Demez says, is Forbidden Door going to be any good? AEW do tend to deliver, so I'd say wrestling-wise, absolutely. Caleb says, Bucks to WWE? Nope. Neither side is particularly interested in that ever happening. Though the Usos would be interested in it. Where am I? Cal says, will The Rock turn up to work? No, that's not what he's employed for. He's not employed to work. Eric, we've only actually covered one match so far, but we will be covering it in full detail. Yeah, BM, nobody reached out to apologise to Goldberg. So whatever your source is there, then no. Nobody did that. Cal says, to be fair, I don't think the new ownership ever had faith in Austin Theory. Sadly, his name was a little too attached to Vince McMahon. Sean says, do you think Cody will win back the belt at SummerSlam? I do not. And Mr. X says, what's happened to The Miz? He's off shooting. Dan says, niche question. Are you aware of any Japanese wrestlers claiming they never want to move to the US for work and wound up doing so? Marigold Utami has stated this in the past, but I have hopes. Interesting. There are some who said they didn't want to leave Japan, for example, Hiroshi Tanahashi. Have I got them right? There's a Takahashi and there's two Tanahashis. I think I'm right. Okay, once again, because I'm drinking Iron Brew, TikTok has decided that I'm drinking alcohol and has restricted the show. All right. Demez will be getting to that shortly. Aaron said, do you think the final boss will come back at SummerSlam? No, I don't think he cares that much, to be honest. BM says, no. Sean says, this year will mark the first year since 2019 that the women's tag team titles have been defended on SummerSlam, and how ironic Alexa was one of the champions defending them and is challenging for them. Bismo says, Tommy's basically the wise man in his wrestling role. I try my best. I appreciate that, Bismo. Sid says, do you think Wrestling Days is a good YouTuber? Damn right I do. Cal says, did you see Wrestling Observer? I know. Said that they were told the Seth injury was planned to be a spot before the show and only a few people knew. What do you think about that? I think we're going to find out. I'm interested to see. I really am. Eric says, any reason why Bayley and Lyra are teaming up? We'll find out after the fact. Wrestler fan says, is Nikki Bella going to be on SummerSlam Wrestling? I don't think so, but I'm not sure. I'm a Villain says, are they pushing Cena to wrestle one more Mania or the December send-off set in stone? Right now, the December send-off is indeed set in stone. However, the WWE are trying to convince John Cena to continue. BM, Cultaholic are definitely not the source. They do not report exclusives. They would have shared that from someone else, but I can state categorically no apology has been made to Goldberg, and no apology is going to be made to Goldberg based on what I've heard. I hope you enjoy it, BM. Cecil says, hello Tom and chat. Sorry I'm late. Heading back to the beginning, chat rate, thumbs up, and hello troll, bye troll. Got all my stuff in. Everything is covered. Everything is covered. Yes, Ed, thank you for reiterating that point. Oh, well, before I could, to be fair. Says, Cultaholic doesn't report news, just aggregates it, so there's another link in that chain, which is, of course, accurate. There will be a different source in that, and they are the ones that I'm saying have got this one wrong. Caleb says, Dustin to hold the TNA title for long. I think he'll get a decent run of it. I think he'll get about 6 months before it moves on to someone else. The intention is not to push Dustin for anything serious. He is mostly coaching now, but they do want to respect the effort that he's put in over the decades. Yeah, sadly it does, Joey. Noob says, like I said on Friday, fans of Asuka need to be patient. Yeah, I feel like you say that every single show. Cal says, thoughts and solidarity go with Jess Carter, who was racially abused last night. It's a shame we still have to talk about racism in 2025. Why can't people just be kind? Because the vast majority of people have benefited from being evil bitches. The vast majority of people you've met, you will meet, and who are in your life receive reward when they are bad people. I mean, look at the world leaders right now. They are receiving reward. Vast majority of them, I think we can all agree, not good people. Not good people. Thank you, Kaylin, for following on TikTok. Appreciate you for that. We do these shows every Monday and every Friday, both on YouTube and on TikTok. So you can, of course, check them out. 10 o'clock UK time. That is 5 p.m. Eastern time in the US. Declan says, Becky Lynch is a legend. It's a shame we're not going to get Becky 2 belts at the same arena that she won the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championship. Why? There are plenty of other people who could potentially benefit from having championships. If Becky's got all of them, I don't think there's going to be a benefit there. Sean, I don't see Cody turning heel. Sid says, Hulk Hogan allegedly can't speak and is being monitored at home by medical staff. I mean, ouch. I don't necessarily like the man or his views, but I also don't necessarily wish ill on him, so hope he recovers. Michael says, Becky posted a video on Instagram of Seth walking around with a brace on his knee using crutches. Yes, but as we all know, wrestlers know how to sell. Cal says, imagine CM Punk beats Gunter and finally wins the title 12 years after his last, and then bang, Seth returns and commits the ultimate heist again. A lot of hot potato with that belt. Kalen wants Homelander Cody, and I've got to be honest, so do I. Cody himself is the one who doesn't. Sean says, is Nikki Bella back full-time, and is she there to help get Stephanie Vaquer over? She doesn't need to help get Stephanie Vaquer over. Stephanie Vaquer is already over and is getting more over with time. She's not back full-time at all. Ishii says, hello, Tom. Hope you're okay. Long time the GOAT. Thank you, Ishii. Welcome to the show. Yeah, true, BM. Very true. Eric says, forcing a Coolio's run in WWE so far. Nowhere near enough time. Wrestler fan, personally, I'm thinking we're going to get 6 or 7 matches per night of SummerSlam. Yes. Rickan says, do you think Tama Tonga returns at SummerSlam or the night before on Friday? Personally, I think SummerSlam is the best shot. Sean says, Brie Bella said on her and Nikki show that she's almost there when it comes to an in-ring return. And Declan says, the live stream here is at 7 a.m. Tuesday and Saturday. I love watching you, Tom. That is commitment, Declan. Thank you for that. Cal says, did you see Cody's podcast with his wife? I love how they've been together for so long and have a child together, and Cody still gets nervous and says the wrong thing. And Mike Brand says the WWE is really screwing up by keeping wrestlers like Logan Paul up in the main event, while folks like the Wyatts are kept mid-card. Just wonder why put all in over a part-time who can't commit. Because Logan Paul guarantees viewership that aren't already wrestling fans. That's your main reason. We've spoken about Solo Sikoa versus Jacob Fatu. Let's advance. Judgment Day, that being Raquel Rodriguez and Roxanne Perez, will be defending their women's tag team championships against Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss. They're engaging tonight with Bayley and Lyra Valkyria, but really they're just bodies. They're just people to get the opportunity to get used to each other, and for Raquel Rodriguez to continue to advance her style under advice that she's got from Kevin Nash. Raquel Rodriguez is particularly getting a lot of respect backstage at the moment. Charlotte Flair is very eager to work with her and make her look strong. And in many ways, as you'll undoubtedly have noticed, and as I originally reported, the intention to get Charlotte Flair cheered is proving incredibly successful so far, to the point that I'm really sick of hearing commentary mention it. So it's going well. I have Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss winning this match, and I do feel like it is the next step, the next generation, and does suggest long-term that Raquel Rodriguez may be turning face when Liv Morgan returns to collect her. We have Becky Lynch defending the Women's Intercontinental Championship against Lyra Valkyria. I don't see Lyra keeping it. I think this will be the end of the Lyra Valkyria push. I think there'll be another Lyra versus Bayley one-on-one match in the future, but it will not be on a PLE. And Becky Lynch will go on to defend her championship against other people at this point. What I will say is that I think Becky Lynch, Bayley, and Lyra Valkyria have been doing great work keeping this championship important, keeping it strong, and making sure that Lyra is pushed very well as well. She will move on, and I do think there are other people she can work with who will also, make her look great. I can see a Lyra versus, for example, Roxanne Perez feud in the near future, and I do think there's a lot of opportunities there. But Becky Lynch maintains her hold on the championship. Caleb says, who takes the belt from Cena? Personally, I very much hope it's going to be Jacob Fatu. Because, that'd be great. I'd love that. Fair shout, BM. Look at you sourcing. Eric says, any news on why Trick retained last night? Oh, I got nothing on that. Nothing at all. Mike says, I hope Bliss stays clear of the Wyatts and stays with Flair. At this point, Bliss would only hurt the Wyatts and vice versa, which I think is a fair comment. Cal says, Raquel Rodriguez is a legend who spoke about her skin condition on Chris Van Vliet and that she wants to carry on to inspire women and girls. She's such a good person. She is, and I am very happy she's getting the plaudits at this point. Joey says, why didn't TNA pull the trigger with Mike Santana last night? I'm honestly not sure. I'm really not sure. It's a difficult one to answer. BM loves Raquel Rodriguez. Sean says, will The Rock come back at SummerSlam? I don't expect so. No. A Villain says, is it me or does the booking in the Triple H era seem mediocre and predictable? People have said that about every wrestling era and every wrestling company at some point. Eric says, do you think Liv goes babyface with Raquel? No, I think Raquel goes babyface with Liv. Rick says, can we expect Lance Anoa'i to join Jacob in the future, or is WWE not happy with his progress? To be fair, WWE not happy with Coolio's progress, and here we are. Sean says, Undertaker will be on NXT this week to confront Trick Williams, and Mariah May makes her in-ring debut also. And Eric says, I can't wait to see Lyra versus Charlotte. Cal says, I know Jimmy is involved with the story at the moment. I do feel like he's kind of been forgotten about. I don't know. Solo, Jacob and Jay have had huge pushes in my opinion, and Jimmy just hasn't. And that's true. The push they gave him was against Jay for WrestleMania. The fact that that match wasn't well received mean they essentially had to start again. Roy says, what was the best PLE so far in 2025? I actually really genuinely enjoyed Evolution. Michael says, Fightful Select just reported Deonna Purrazzo is signed with AEW through 2026. Thank you for bringing that in, Michael. Christopher said they've got Lyra Valkyria winning the Women's Intercontinental Championship against Becky Lynch at SummerSlam. Declan says, I'd like Seth to cash in on John versus Cody match and win the title. And Cal says, I've seen a lot of people say, what have TNA got from NXT? They've got to start WrestleMania against one of WWE's biggest stars of all time. And plenty more. It's not that simple. Bailey says, how many more Fatus are in the development pipeline? Depends how many more actually want to be involved. Declan says, who could you see in the women's War Games this year? This one's tricky. There's not really that many women's factions. That's the word I was looking for. Women's factions. So I'd imagine, hopefully, Chelsea Green's going to be involved there. Good day, Unique Unicorn. Michael says, I think it might be time for a gimmick change for Deonna. I still see What's a Virtuoso on social media. What's a virtuosa? People just don't get her character. Yeah, sadly. Sean says, if there is a heel turn tonight after the tag match, I'd like to see Lyra turn on Bayley. They've beaten each other up and nobody's turned. Rickan says, is Solar versus Jacob going to be dragged out until War Games in your opinion? Yep. And rest of the fan said, is Damien versus Black going to be on SummerSlam? I don't suspect so, no. True, Michael. Declan says, next WrestleMania, Charlotte, Alexa versus Bayley and Becky for the women's tag team titles. I think Becky will still be the Intercontinental Champion at that point. BM says, don't forget Naomi and Nia are both technically Fatus as well. That is also a fair comment. A lot of them. Sean says, how long do you see Naomi as champion? Not too long. I think it'll be maybe 4 or 5 months personally. And the other Mike says, shout out to Raquel for taking constructive criticism and not being pissy about it. Which I think is a fair comment. The criticism she received from Kevin Nash was, you're not doing this and I think it'd be better if you did this. She tried it. She's getting rave reviews. Largely from him, yes. But rave reviews nonetheless. Back to SummerSlam. For the Women's World Championship, we have a triple threat. Naomi, the new champion, taking on Rhea Ripley and Io Sky. And this is an interesting one. Naomi does not have allies. Though Bianca Belair still technically exists. And doesn't necessarily enjoy Rhea Ripley or Io Sky's work. So I think that's a possibility. But I believe Naomi comes away with the championship so that she can get in some way involved with Tiffany Stratton. So maybe the Tiffany Stratton match happens earlier in the night. Jade Cargill is what I'm discussing. Maybe the Jade Cargill match happens earlier in the night. She takes the opportunity to get involved and attack Naomi, and that somehow screws Ripley and Io Sky out of the opportunity. I have Naomi retaining. I'm just not sure how we necessarily get there. Gunther will defend the World Heavyweight Championship against CM Punk. Now, of course, this seems set to be the Night 1 main event, and Dave Meltzer is stating that Seth Rollins will be cashing in after CM Punk wins the championship. So it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. Dave Meltzer is not the only one reporting it, but he's certainly the loudest and the most reputable name? Recognizable name, let's say that. Either way, I don't see CM Punk coming away with the championship, and given that Gunther has only recently actually won it, personally I think the most likely scenario is that Gunther beats CM Punk and nobody cashes in for anything. We have our celebrity tag team match. Randy Orton teams with Jelly Roll against Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul. What a mess this looks like. I actually have Randy Orton being pinned by Logan Paul here. I think Logan Paul is going to be moving on to some pretty big moments. I think Drew McIntyre is looking to relight a fire, and this is an opportunity to do so. And I also feel that ultimately Jelly Roll will do the right thing and not make himself look too good. I think Jelly Roll respects the industry too much to go over it, if you get what I mean. Whereas Logan Paul has shown his respect for the industry, has lost quite a few big matches, and has an opportunity to lean on Drew McIntyre here. So I have the heels winning this one, Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul, and that is all she wrote in WWE for Jelly Roll. Which is not a bad thing, just to be clear. I don't think Jelly Roll is going to be fantastic, based on what I've seen. But you really can't deny how hot a segment it was when Jelly Roll was interrupted while singing by Logan Paul and then Randy Orton. It was hot. The crowd were really into it. So honestly, not upset by the concept. Robert Bridge says, Punk to win, Seth to cash in, Seth is fine. Robert Bridge has a crush on Seth Rollins. And you know what? I ain't going to blame no one. I ain't going to blame no one for that. The man is a beautiful man. Beautiful man. BM says, I enjoyed Evolution, but otherwise hate to say this, 2025 hasn't been a vintage wrestling year for me so far. Ooh, where was I? Yeah. BM says, don't forget one of the board members is a Fatu. Dan says, watching on a delay, thanks for the answer. Appreciate you, Dan. BM says, who's coming out to help Io or Rhea? I mean, they're not. They're not. Sid says, a YouTube Sean View ENT said Vince McMahon was at TNA Slammiversary. He wasn't. He also said Seth Rollins forced to retire from WWE. He also wasn't. Cal says, what happened with Travis Scott, by the way? Got removed from 2K25 and it seemed Triple H threw shots at him with his recent comments about people wanting to wrestle until they take a bump. Yeah. Travis Scott wanted to be in a wrestling ring. The second he started training, he no longer wanted to be in a wrestling ring. Quite funny, really. Declan suggests Naomi versus Becky for the championship. Which championship? I'm guessing you want Naomi to win both belts. Sean says, do you think Seth is really injured? Personally, yes. But we'll see what happens. BM says, I think Seth cashes in and Punk wins the Royal Rumble, then takes on Seth in the main event of WrestleMania Night 1 for the title. Personally, I still think Sami Zayn's right there. And an obvious choice. Thank you, Ishii. BM says, edgy take, Jelly Roll turns on Randy Orton. Cal says, poor Drew McIntyre. 1 year ago, he faced Seth Rollins and won the belt, then had the biggest feud of the year, and then could lose to Jelly Roll. Wrestling is cyclical. You're up, you're also down. You're in, you're also out. Joey says, does Travis Scott have heat in WWE after the WrestleMania spot? He had heat in WWE after the Elimination Chamber. He's not a popular man in WWE. BM says, I still can't name a single Jelly Roll or Bad Bunny song. Booker T. Joey says, is Jelly Roll going to be able to do a lot of wrestling? No. I'm a Villain says they putting a pause on the Lucha Bros reuniting. Would love to see a stable of Lucha Bros and Andrade. A day may well come. They're working with Penta as a single superstar at the moment, but long term, the tag team is where we're headed. Marcel says, do you expect Roman there tonight? Yes, I do. And Christopher Leclerc says, I've got Jelly Roll and Randy Orton winning. Cena says, I love since Cena turned heel. We still don't know why he did it for The Rock. Declan, once again, plenty of championships, plenty of competitors. Becky Lynch is not allowed all of them. True, Cal. True. Hector says, I know there's been several stars in AEW to make appearances in Hollywood, but the proof is WWE has shown they can really make those dreams a reality. Cody had no roles in AEW and now he's in 2. There is a concerted push, particularly since The Rock came back, to ensure that WWE wrestlers get lots of time in films, in movies, in TV, just to try and make their names more recognisable to the general public. Sean says, do you think there's going to be any returns at SummerSlam? Yes, the return of the people who are going to be wrestling in the matches to that particular arena. Joey says, do you think Zelina will be paired with Andrade or Black soon? No, but I do think being paired with Black is a long-term goal, which will be achieved. Sean says, it seems like WWE had no plans once Julia won the championship. Yeah. They do that sometimes, and then afterwards they come up with them. Paul loves Timeless Tony Storm. And Bailey says, will Rhea Ripley get opportunities in movies once she starts trying to? Probably, yes. SummerSlam will also feature a championship match between Tiffany Stratton and Jade Cargill. Tiffany Stratton is in an interesting position at the moment in that she's still a champion. There is not an immediate challenger ready to dethrone her. They are building the people that they can, but SmackDown has already moved on from her. SmackDown's main focus right now is on Jade Cargill, so the challenger rather than the champion. In many ways, let's say she loses at SummerSlam, I will say that this particular championship reign has been very successful. She's wrestled some big names, she's wrestled some major stars, but I don't think she's had a great storyline. I think she's missing a little character development, and I think unfortunately it will mean that when her championship reign does end, it will not be looked at as prominently as it could well have been. I have Naomi getting involved in costing Jade Cargill here. I have Tiffany Stratton remaining the champion, and I have Jade Cargill losing to a DQ or a count out. So nothing particularly special here. I also think this might be the night, as I mentioned earlier, for Bianca Belair to turn heel on Jade Cargill, reuniting with Naomi. I think there's potential there, though Naomi hasn't really been nice to her recently. And that leaves us with the planned Night 2 main event, the rematch that I told you was coming way back in March. John Cena versus Cody Rhodes in a street fight for the undisputed WWE Championship. And I've mentioned this a couple of times, but I'm just going to make it clear. I don't have Cody Rhodes winning. I have John Cena retaining the championship and Cody Rhodes not challenging John Cena again. Cody Rhodes, I think, will take more time to have a break, as I think will Roman Reigns shortly. So a championship is not, for me, in his future, and nor is a heel turn, particularly if you're going to play Guile. He's the good guy. That's our SummerSlam preview. We've got quite a bit still to go over. Quite a bit in news that I want to discuss, some of which we have already discussed, so I'll be flying over it. But I also want to make sure I'm all caught up. Rickan says, do you see Black getting a big push now that he's heel? No. No, big push is a stretch. Depends on what you mean by big push. The words big push usually mean, do you see him winning the world title immediately? And no, I don't see him being anywhere near it. If Mike says nobody will be damaged by the Randy tag match, I think everybody needs to calm down. It depends on what you mean by everybody. I don't think anyone in here is particularly thinking that's going to happen. Have I missed something? Fair enough, BM. Cal says, when will the tribal chief Tongaloa win every belt? Well, I mean, as we know, every belt needs Tongaloa, and Tongaloa does not need every belt. He's simply too good. Joey says, does WWE have enough faith in Jade carrying the women's title? I don't believe so, but she is rewarding their faith at the moment. Sid said, is there any wrestlers you don't like watching and don't watch them? Yes, and I think most of you are fully aware of who I'm talking about. Sean says, do you think Cena will turn babyface again? No, but I think he'll sign off as a positive. Christopher Leclerc thinks Jade Cargill will win the championship. Cal and Christopher both have Cody winning the championship as well. BM says, edgy take. Cody won't win either of the top 2 titles again until late 26 or early 27. And also says Jean-Claude Van Damme will always be the best Guile. I can't ignore how good he is in that. And I don't want to. Sean says, what do you think this proposal is Becky's supposed to have for Lyra tonight on Raw? I'd imagine some sort of stipulation. Hector says, Naomi's been recently tagging with Nia Jax on live events. They even gave Nia caution tape theme gear as well. Give all titles to Naomi, I wouldn't complain. I have mentioned previously that Naomi and Nia Jax are building towards a friendship. A loose alliance, which will essentially mean Naomi has a bodyguard. BM says, Cody got to finish the story and held the belt for a year. He doesn't need the top belts back yet. And Cal says, I hope The Rock doesn't return. I don't want to see him stroke Cody's face ever again. There are some things that we're just not into. And I don't want to yuck anyone else's yum. I don't like the same things The Rock does. Cal says, I see people saying Priest hasn't been pushed this year. He literally beat Drew. Drew McIntyre tried to ensure that Priest was still being pushed. Sean admits to being a Cody crybaby. And BM says the original Street Fighter movie was only good because it was so bad it wasn't supposed to be, but it ended up as a spoof. Yeah. And I love it. And I'm not going to pretend otherwise. Oh, right. Where was I? Dave Meltzer has confirmed that the plan for Roman Reigns at SummerSlam was to take on Bron Breakker. He's only a couple of months too late. He is still pushing the narrative of Seth Rollins cashing in. It'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. Let's see what else is on my agenda. Dave Meltzer has also been talking about Brock Lesnar. You know what he's done? He's confirmed exactly what I've been reporting for nearly 2 years now. Thank you, Dave Meltzer, for finally remembering. And thank you, Dave Meltzer, for once again not crediting. Thank you very kindly. I did want to talk about CM Punk and Elena Black. Now, I'm not going to go into this in too much detail. The former Cora Jade is having a few struggles. She has been offered a few contracts at different locations. I think she just wants some time to recover. It's been a pretty big hit on her, and there are other ways that she's currently making money, which, let's just say, she's assessing how much she could potentially make from them. There was a report out recently that the WWE is grooming a number of stars to be the future of the company. They are encouraging certain relatively unknown names to move straight to the top. And those names? Rhea Ripley, Jacob Fatu, and Bron Breakker. Now, bear with me a minute. I want to give you as close to an authentic reaction based on how I reacted when I first heard this. Like, you know, this is going to be a huge reaction, huge shock. Yeah. Who the hell reports this crap, and why does it get aggregated? This is a Wrestling Observer saying, hey, these guys are pretty good and WWE likes them. No shit. People report this crap. Literally, I get no credit for what I'm reporting, ever. But people report that crap. What is this garbage? Ugh. Cal says, Damian Priest quietly using Taker's moves make me happy. He truly is the bisexual Undertaker. Anonymous says, who do you see being on Jacob's War Games team? If you had to make a guess, besides Jimmy, of course. Jay, Roman. Cal says, I don't know what you think, Tom. I think if Seth did cash in, it would be the biggest moment in a long time. Hector says, I don't know if anyone else noticed it, but Sleuths on X noticed that Cody was wearing the watch Rock gave him in that weird Monday Night Raw promo on Friday. Not sure if it means anything, but it's interesting. Possibly, Joey. I Like, if that's what she wants to do, then all power to her. I wouldn't call it a pipe bomb, mate. Yeah. Joey, thank you for this, says, you literally reported 2 years ago that Triple H viewed Rhea Ripley as a top star. Meltzer is late again. Roy says, it was bad enough seeing Jade Cargill being a bad TNT champion in AEW. I don't want to see Jade Cargill be a bad women's champion in WWE. As I've mentioned a few times, she's training with Charlotte Flair to improve. BM says, who is this young up-and-comer Rhea Ripley? Never heard of her. And Cal says, hi Tom, I don't know if you've heard of an unknown football player. His name is Messi. Messi? Is that the what's his name? Lionel? Something like that. Anyway. I'm a Villain says, maybe I missed this, but who is Roman going to be paired up with this time? Jay and Sammy? I definitely think Jay. I wouldn't go as far as Sammy. He seems to have other things to be focused on at the moment. And that's kind of all she wrote. Now, you'll recall at the beginning of the show I did say I was trying to make something a little more relaxed. A little less stringent, a little less stressful, so that I could slow down a little bit, slow the pace, and enjoy myself. And I've got to say, I have. I don't know if you guys feel the difference, if you guys have enjoyed the difference, but I've seen plenty of you saying that maybe you just want me to talk a bit more, me to go off topic a bit more, me to not be so wedded to talking about wrestling news all the time. I think some of you maybe miss the watch parties. We will be live for both nights of SummerSlam, I can promise you that. So that's us. And honestly, I've got to say, I really quite enjoyed that one. So thank you very much, guys. I'll be seeing you for Friday's show. But in the meantime, I've been Tom Colohue. You've been fantastic, and I'll see you all very soon.